In its peak decades, downtown Cleveland didn't feel optional. It felt essential. Everything led there. The city moved in a steady flow toward its center, pulled in by work, by opportunity, by the promise that something was always happening, just a few blocks away. It wasn't just a district on a map. It was the heart of the city in the most literal sense. Euclid Avenue carried that identity better than anywhere else. Once known as Millionaires Row, it held a kind of quiet prestige that shaped how people viewed Cleveland itself. Grand homes, elegant storefronts, and wide streets created a sense that this was a place of importance. Even as the city evolved, that reputation lingered, a reminder of how much wealth and influence had once concentrated here. Downtown was where life unfolded. Massive department stores like Higbee's, Halle's, and the May Company weren't just places to shop. They were destinations. People spent entire afternoons moving through them, browsing, meeting, eating, existing within the rhythm of the city. The streets outside stayed busy, filled with shoppers, workers, and families, moving from one place to another. Theaters lit up the evenings. Restaurants stayed full. Hotels welcomed travelers who came through a city that felt connected to the rest of the country. Office buildings anchored the workday, pulling in thousands of people who gave downtown its constant energy. There was always motion, always noise, always a sense that this was where things mattered. Streetcars fed that movement, carrying people in from every direction. Neighborhoods weren't disconnected from downtown. They were tied to it. The city functioned like a system, with its center drawing everything inward. At its height, downtown Cleveland represented more than just commerce. It stood for possibility, for upward movement, for the idea that if you came into the city, you could build something. It was where people worked, shopped, gathered, and spent their time, all in one place. Before the shift began, before the crowds thinned and the patterns changed, downtown Cleveland felt complete, alive, full, and central to everything the city was. The shift didn't happen all at once. Downtown Cleveland didn't suddenly go quiet. It slowly lost its pull. Through the 1950s and into the following decades, the patterns that once fed the city's center began to change. People who had spent their lives moving toward downtown started moving away from it. Suburban expansion offered something different. More space, newer homes, distance from the density of the city. Highways made that movement easier, allowing people to live farther out without depending on streetcars or proximity. For the first time, daily life no longer had to revolve around downtown. Retail followed the shift. Shopping malls rose outside the city, offering convenience, parking, and modern design that department stores downtown couldn't compete with. Places like Higbee's, Halle's, and the May Company, once anchors of daily activity, began to feel the impact. Foot traffic declined. Stores that had once been full started to thin out. At the same time, the city's industrial base weakened. Manufacturing jobs declined, reducing the number of people coming into downtown each day for work. The steady flow that had sustained businesses and filled the streets began to slow. The changes were visible, but gradual. Storefronts closed one by one. Buildings that had once been full of offices and retail space became partially empty. Streets that had once felt crowded at all hours started to feel quieter, especially outside peak times. By the 1970s and into the 1980s, downtown Cleveland was no longer the center of everything. It still functioned, still held importance, but it no longer carried the same gravity. The shift wasn't just economic, it was structural. The city had reorganized itself in a way that no longer depended on its core. What had once been a place of constant activity became something more uncertain. Not abandoned, but no longer essential. The rhythm had changed, and downtown was no longer where all roads led. By the late 20th century, downtown Cleveland wasn't trying to return to what it had been. It was trying to become something new. The crowds that once filled department stores and sidewalks weren't coming back in the same way, so the city began to rethink what its center could be. Redevelopment became the focus. New projects aimed to bring people back, not for daily necessity, but for experience. Tower City Center rose as a symbol of that effort, a reimagined space built where transit, shopping, and movement could meet again. It wasn't the same as the old department store era, but it was an attempt to create a new kind of draw. Entertainment began to replace routine. Restaurants, bars, and event spaces grew in importance. Sports venues and waterfront projects gave people reasons to come downtown again, even if only for a few hours. The city shifted from a place you needed to go to a place you chose to visit. At the same time, downtown started to gain residents again, but in a different form. Old office buildings and warehouses were converted into apartments and lofts. A smaller population moved back into the city's core, creating a new kind of life that hadn't existed during its industrial peak. But the change came with tension. The new downtown felt cleaner, more organized, more controlled, but also less central to everyday life. It no longer carried the same weight it once did. The energy was different, more concentrated, less constant. Cleveland wasn't rebuilding the past. It was redefining its center in a way that fit a different time. A downtown shaped not by necessity, but by reinvention, still carrying the memory of what it had been, even as it moved forward into something else. If you enjoyed this deep dive, subscribe for more stories about American cities, their rise, their fall, and what they've become today. And let me know in the comments. What city should we explore next?